Breaking news out of the Middle East this morning, with Israel claiming it's killed the alleged architect of the October 7th attacks, Yahya Sinwar. The Israeli Defense Force says the Hamas leader, who is at the top of Israel's most wanted list, was killed by troops during an operation in the south of Gaza.
His body has been taken to Israel, to the National Forensic Centre in Tel Aviv, and that's where our Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran is live for us this morning. Matthew, good morning. So a heavy police presence there by the looks. What's the latest?
It certainly is, Michael. Good morning to you. Yahya Sinwar, Yahya Sinwar's body was brought to this facility a short time ago for further examination. There were initial checks done to verify his identity using things like dental records, DNA and fingerprints before he was brought here, and all of that information was on the Israeli files because this is a man who had spent more than 20 years in an Israeli jail before being released over a decade ago in a prisoner swap. We are learning some details this evening here in Israel, local time, about just what led to this situation, what led to this strike in southern Gaza in and around Rafah, which has killed the leader of Hamas. It appears that the IDF, while thinking and hoping for their efforts that Yahya Sinwar and senior Hamas militants were in the south of Gaza, they didn't actually have specific intelligence to say that he was in the building that they targeted. They flew a drone into that building and they have actually released that vision, and the vision shows a man sitting in a chair. He then throws something at the drone, and it was after that that an Israeli tank fired upon the building. The remains of the three Hamas militants found shortly after, and that is when speculation began to mount that one of these individuals was Yahya Sinwar. So we have seen this develop throughout the afternoon into the evening here in Israel, and that led to the confirmation that he is one of those three militants killed in the strike. We know that this has been something that Israel has been trying to achieve for some time. Israel managed, or at least it's never spoken about it, but it has been attributed to the actions of Israel, the assassination of Yahya Sinwar's predecessor, Ismail Haniyeh. He was assassinated in Iran a couple of months ago, and that was when Sinwar then took over running Hamas there. This will now leave something of a vacuum at the top of that militant group and could be a very significant moment in the course of this war in Gaza.
It could very well be. What's been the reaction on the streets in Israel, Matthew?
Well, certainly we have seen some celebrations from Israelis who believe that this is a significant win for Israel. We've heard from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. He released a video shortly after this news broke this evening saying that this was a great victory for Israel. It was a military and a moral victory, and he said that evil had been dealt a significant blow as a result of this attack. We have heard in the last hour or so from the Israeli military spokesman, Daniel Hagari, and he has said that despite many months of trying to evade Israeli forces, Yahya Sinwar has now met his end.
For the past year, Sinwar tried to escape justice. He failed. We said we would find him and bring him to justice, and we did it. It was Yahya Sinwar who decided to wage war with Israel while hiding behind civilians in Gaza.
Daniel Hagari, the Israeli military spokesman, speaking a short time ago. We've now heard from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the focus will return to the hostages, the Israeli hostages that are being kept in Gaza, those that were taken on October 7 when Hamas launched its attacks on Israel, attacks that Yahya Sinwar was the architect of. Benjamin Netanyahu saying that the job in Gaza is not done and that he will not rest until those hostages are brought home. Michael?
Matthew Doran, thank you for the update.
Thousands of homes are without power after severe storms lashed part of the southeast of the country. Transmission towers in the Broken Hill region suffered extensive damage and are expected to take several days to fix. Wild winds were seen lashing Roxby Downs and the Flinders Ranges in South Australia, and there's more wild weather on the way, with warnings across several states today. For more, we're joined by Bethanie Alderson in Adelaide, and Josh Mercer joins us from Broken Hill. What's the latest, Bethanie?
Well, Catherine, there's still thousands of people without power across South Australia after that wild weather hit the state late yesterday. The Weather Bureau had issued a severe thunderstorm warning for destructive winds, large hailstones and heavy rain across several regional areas. And we know that there were more than 130,000 lightning strikes yesterday. And in some areas in the mid-north, they recorded more than 40 millimetres of rain, including at Snowtown. There was also some extremely windy conditions. Gusts of around 130 kilometres were recorded at Port Pirie as well as the Olympic Dam Airport. We have heard reports that BHP's Olympic Dam mine was without power yesterday, but we're yet to confirm what the details are now. We've seen some pretty intense vision of dust storms taken near Roxby Downs and the far north, and authorities say there's been more than 100 calls for assistance for roofs and fences blown away and trees damaged. And we've also heard reports that transmission lines have now been damaged in Roxby Downs also. Yesterday there was around 20,000 properties without power across the state, mostly in those regional areas. The Country Fire Service gave an update on what the situation is like this morning. Let's take a listen.
I know there are still a number of residents without power, and it will be for essentially a couple of days while they restore some of the high voltage infrastructure that's been damaged. The wind's definitely dropped off today, calmer conditions, which is going to give both our crews and residents the opportunity to finalise some of those call-outs and provide that final level of assistance as required.
Now, the Bureau says the immediate threat of storms has passed and it's cancelled that severe thunderstorm warning, but it says it'll continue to monitor the situation. Here in Adelaide and across South Australia, it is a much calmer day and a cool change has swept through. There are a few showers expected, but nothing like we saw yesterday. The wild weather, though, is expected to now travel east with warnings and storms expected across Victoria and New South Wales.
Fingers crossed for a calmer day. Josh is in Broken Hill. Josh, what are we expecting there today?
So, Catherine, today we're going to be having a top of 28 degrees, and it's going to be a windy day. As you can see probably behind me, the wind is starting to blow around. Winds can blow pretty harshly here in Broken Hill. So far, people are still on, the city is still on generators for supplying the city with power at the moment. We did have a little bit of an outage through the night, but otherwise the power has come back on today, and we'll just keep monitoring the situation to see what happens with the power and the residents here in Broken Hill.
You know, the first one looks like it's been hit by a semi-trailer. It's just a crumpled mess on the ground, and it sort of closes the mines down, and that's our major industry in Broken Hill. So we really need to get it going as soon as we can.
Josh, here's hoping. What can residents do to prepare?
So Essential Energy is asking residents to minimise their electricity use, just so the generators can work properly, and that if there is a case of an outage, they can be sorted there and make sure their equipment and everything is charged up. But also you make sure that you have supplies ready with you. So make sure you've got water, make sure you've got ice, and make sure that you do have something where you can someone knows what's going on, like your neighbour or something like that.
Josh Mercer, thank you so much for the update, and also Bethanie Alderson.
We have some breaking news in the entertainment sphere. Liam Payne's One Direction bandmates have just released a statement responding to his untimely death. They wrote, "We are completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing. In time, and when everyone is able to, there will be more to say. But for now, we'll take some time to grieve and process the loss of our brother, who we loved dearly." A preliminary autopsy has revealed Liam Payne died from internal and external bleeding injuries after falling from a balcony in Argentina. He was just 31 years old.
The family of an Australian man who disappeared off a Bali beach while trying to rescue a swimmer is pleading for help. Craig Laidley managed to save the 29-year-old tourist on Wednesday afternoon before being swept away by the current.
The Northern Territory's recently elected government has lowered the age of criminal responsibility in the territory to 10. The controversial laws passed the NT Parliament late last night, a day after being introduced. The NT's Chief Minister, Leah Finocchiaro, insists the intent is not to lock up 10-year-olds, rather they be placed into mandatory diversion programs. However, the legal sector is warning availability in those programs is scarce.
Former Jetstar pilot Greg Lynn is due to be sentenced over the murder of Victorian High Country camper Carol Clay this morning. The 57-year-old was found guilty earlier this year of murdering Ms Clay, but not guilty of the murder of her companion Russell Hill in 2020. Lynn continues to protest his innocence, and his legal team says it will lodge an appeal.
A new report from the US Congress suggests Australia could dump plans to acquire nuclear-powered submarines and instead spend billions on other military capabilities. The Congressional Research Service study claims no alternatives were explored before Australia agreed to the nuclear plan.